Are you a fan of pro wrestling, comedy, and combat sports? Then we have the podcast for you because we cover that and much, much more.
Do you like to debate with your friends? Do we have the perfect segment for you? It's the 531, where we take any given subject, break it down to a top 5. From there, we debate it down to 3, and then into that number 1 spot.
If you want to get a hold of us, find us on our social medias. Search Working Fans Podcast on any major social media platform. And if you want to find the podcast, search for us on any major podcast platform, as well as YouTube.
Working Fans Podcast. We put in the work so you don't have to.
All right, everybody, it's the Working Fans Combatcast with a man called David Cheveruni and Chevy. End of the year episode, man. Glad I talked you into doing this. This is fun. I enjoy this.
Yeah, it's been good.
Yeah. It's been getting better, I think. I really enjoy it. Well, wait, why don't you let's get it out of the way. Tell people what they got. Right now, we only know what's happening next week. So
next week we're going to be doing our predictions for the forthcoming year, the 2022 prediction show.
Yeah. So we'll tell you what we think. Who's going to stay champ? Who might lose their belt?
Mm-hmm.
Who they could win? We'll just give you some thoughts. But yeah, man. One quick fan question. Randy Osgo always sending us that stuff in. He asked, what was the better knockout over the weekend? Derek Lewis over Dukakis, or was it Jake Paul over Woodley? I know I talked to you about this already. I think we're in agreement. It's got to be Jake Paul. I was a little more shocking. I didn't expect him. We both thought Woodley would actually lay him out. He was going to come in, and man, it's like you're never going to sell me until this guy beats a top boxer. That like he's just that great of a fighter still, but I am recognizing there is a certain skill level that he has. This is a con. He still is fighting guys that aren't really boxers, and he's bringing them in.
And they're 40 years old.
Yeah, but he's working hard to have enough skills to fight combat athletes, nonetheless. So I'll give him some due.
Yeah, obviously he has the power. That was a very clean, devastating knockout. I mean, Woodley landed on his face. I saw people online saying that, it was fake and Woodley took a dive or whatever. If you're going to take a dive, you're not going down face first into the mat. So I don't buy that. But yeah, like you said, Jake's got to fight some boxers or whatever. But I mean, he has only been boxing for like 2 or 3 years or something like that. Right. So he needs to progress at a reasonable pace. I think he's doing that. He was supposed to fight a boxer and the boxer pulled out. So he fought Woodley. And I didn't watch the fight. I heard it was pretty boring. Both guys are giving each other a little bit too much respect. So that's on Woodley again, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I assume he knew that he could get knocked out. So that's why he didn't press forward. But I think that was his best opportunity to win. He has now lost 6 fights in a row. So he said he wanted to fight 4 times next year. I think he should hang him up personally. But I mean, he just got paid. He paid a ridiculous amount of money. Brand new Rolex from Jake. Go make some more shitty rap music.
Enjoy your life.
Yeah.
Odds on favorite. I heard the other day. I can't remember who it was. Might have been MMA Junkie, but that Jake Paul's next opponent will be Anderson Silva. If that happens, we got a little phone call here. That ain't happening tonight. Anderson Silva. We talked about this before, and we both said Anderson Silva. I still stand by that, but I gotta say, I definitely give Paul a puncher's chance a little bit in this one after seeing his power and knowing Silva in MMA has a chin that he can be knocked out. That being said, as I say that, I think Silva actually is one of the fighters that Jake Paul's not going to have a size advantage over. He's had a size advantage over all his other opponents.
That's right.
And Silva is definitely probably the slicker boxer. I say Silva gets it done. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like this guy is like, back when Conor was proving everybody wrong a little bit and just under a different set of rules, obviously. But fuck, if that fight happens, I think Silva, I say gets him out early too. Round 1, round 2. I don't know.
Yeah, I think he embarrasses Jake, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
That's not a good fight for him. That's not a good progression. I mean, Silva beat a world champion boxer in Cesar Chavez Jr.
Mm-hmm.
And
then did what he was supposed to against Tito Ortiz.
Right. And yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, Jake's gonna. So let's play devil's advocate. Let's say that fight does happen and he beats Anderson Silva. There's no denying him now. Okay, then you put him in there against like a legitimate good boxer after that for sure. I don't see that happening, but
I think the Tommy Fury fight could still happen. If Tommy wants to do it just because of the name and everything like that, and assuming he gets by that, which I'm not saying he wouldn't if he can beat Silva, he's certainly capable of it. I think then he's probably he'll be 6-0 right at that point. So yeah, I gotta say he's gonna get a real opponent. It won't be Mayweather because I think Mayweather's just too small. That they wouldn't be able to work that. So my guess is, there'll be some kind of fight. What is he fighting at anyway?
I think he weighs like 190 or something like that.
Yeah.
I just don't see him beating Anderson Silva though. I'd love to know what the odds are for that fight. If that's really going to be his next fight, say he doesn't fight Tommy Fury, I think he should fight Tommy Fury still. So I think that's a good progression for him.
Yeah, I agree. Well, we'll see. Once again, Jake Paul managed to slip into our conversations here a little more. But people ask. So before we get started, we're going to talk about our fight of the year, our male fighter, our female fighter of the year, and we'll talk about some of our favorite fight cards of the year. I think you have favorite finish of the year, which I forgot, but I got one for us. And I'm just going to throw some of my favorite referees of this year. And a lot of my favorite referees all the time. But in particular, this year, I really beginning to enjoy Jason Herzog's work. I just think he's very direct with the fighters. And, he's always seems to be ready with good stoppages. Same with Mark Smith. Mark Smith is another one that I've really been enjoying. And I think when he's in there, the fighters are safe. And this guy we talk about all the time, I don't think always gets his due. I know Matt Serra had a problem with him one point over one stoppage. He thought it was over. But Mark Goddard, I think 9 times out of 10 is one of the best referees. And there's a lot of other good referees out there too. But I don't know. I don't know if those guys always get the respect they deserve. I think those are 3 of the best.
I think I would put Chris Tione up in that list as well. He's, very respectful to the fighters. If you see dick shots or eye pokes or whatever, he makes sure that they know that they have time to recover, make sure that they're, fully mentally and physically recovered. You don't see him having a lot of issues with stoppages. That's the big thing about being a referee, jumping in too early or jumping in too late. And I don't want to shit on Herb Dean, but he has been setting the standard or whatever for fights for a while now.
Right.
I'd say he's at this point, he has the most controversies I've seen of the big referees at this point.
No doubt. I'm sorry, I'm a little distracted there. I'm looking. I wanted to get into fight cards of the year first. I actually wrote about 5 of these down. I got a little deep divey on this one. Not too deep divey, but deep divey for me. Joe's like, Dave doesn't deep dive anything. What did you have for your fight card of the year? I'm guessing stuff.
I had UFC 261, which was the Usman versus Jorge Masvidal. So Jorge got knocked out in brutal fashion by Usman. Rose versus Weili. That was when Rose head kicked her and knocked her out. Valentina KO'd Andrade. That was when Weidman's leg got snapped by Uriah Hall in that first 10 seconds of that
I had
fight.
this card down here too, but yeah.
And Anthony Smith KOs Jimmy Crute at the beginning of that card.
Everything you just mentioned, all crazy stoppages, except that Uriah Hall Weidman thing. Just unbelievable that Weidman would have the same thing that happened to him that he did to Anderson Silva.
Yeah.
Just crazy. And then Usman knocking out Masvidal was really, for me, it was a coming out thing for Usman because Usman, great volume puncher, and he had that knockout over Burns. But to me, it was kind of like, all right, maybe he caught him. But when he knocked out a guy like Masvidal, a striker, Masvidal, durable, it's like, okay, all right, Usman has definitely got the power to lay people out.
Yeah, and Usman knocked out Gilbert Burns. It was like a jab that he stepped into, That shot he hit Masvidal with was, just a clean power right hand. The way his head snapped and all the sweat and water flew off him.
Oh, yeah.
That was a iconic picture.
Yeah, I think Nate Diaz used that in a little trolling over Masvidal over the weekend too. I saw a Twitter exchange where I think Masvidal was taking Nate to school because Nate was criticizing how fighters aren't getting better, and Masvidal said, "I was going through this, and it's funny how a guy who can't block leg kicks or any kind of kicks really is going to put up and not getting better." And then Nate went, "That's funny. I found some footage too, and it's just Masvidal laid out." Well played, Nate. Well played. So, yeah, that was my fight card of the year. I'll do a few honorable mentions. Really great cards this year. 264, Poirier, McGregor 3, I thought was great. That had Burns and Stephen Thompson on it. Taiju Tuivasa got another TKO. Sean O'Malley versus Chris Montino, who took the fight on short notice. But mainly the wild Poirier, McGregor ending. Great win for Poirier. Conor just, that's where Conor really went downhill for me.
Maximum cringe, yeah.
Yeah. I also had Poirier McGregor too. That happened this year. Like, I didn't realize, wow, both those cards happened this year. That was even, I thought, a little more fun because that had the Michael Chandler, Dan Hooker match where Chandler caught him, and we had the great interview afterwards. 269 that we just had not too long ago. We already talked about how great that was with Charles over there getting Victor Poirier. 268, Usman Covington 2. Usman and Covington are just such great rivals. I mean, honestly, this card is possibly also, this is really the runner-up. I mean,
it was my runner-up also.
Yeah, like you had Rose and Whaley in a rematch, much more competitive this time. Maybe the best women's fight all year too. Because I was thinking about it, like last year we had Whaley and Jacek, which was like the women's fight of all time, just absolutely fabulous fight of the year.
Mm-hmm.
This year, mostly I thought the women performances were mostly dominant. I didn't find that one crazy fight. This was the closest thing I thought, which was a very good competitive fight, but and then Gaethje and Chandler that card, which is, we'll talk about our fights of the year coming up, but so some great cards this year. I thought we got I don't want to say spoiled, but it was definitely some really good shit this year.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, let's just get right to fights of the year. I'll kick off this time because I have a few. We'll see if you got. I throw a little curveball here because we are combat sports. I threw Wild and Fury 3 in this too.
I thought about that.
Yeah, I mean, great boxing match, back and forth, heavyweight title, everything you could ask for in a heavyweight boxing fight. Really, these two brought us back into boxing a little bit, and like it gets me kind of excited thinking about that. But Usman Kobe 2 was also a runner-up for me too. That was also just a phenomenal fight. At the end of the day, though, on that same card was Justin Gaethje and Michael Chandler, and to me, that was the best fight I've seen in a long, long time. Just two warriors going back and forth, And since Randy Oscar had asked me for a top 5 MMA, even though I did give you one boxing, Randy, I'm going to throw out Holloway and Cater just because of the sheer performance by Max Holloway. Every time this man steps in there, it was one-sided, but my God, it was so exciting just to watch what the man was doing. And Chandler and Oliveira too. That's another great back and forth matches. So the 2 fights that Chandler lost this year, I thought were fight of the year candidates, and to me, Gaethje and Chandler, not even a question.
Yeah, we had some similar ones. I did a top 3, so my number 1 was Gaethje and Chandler. Obviously, I wish that fight was 5 rounds, just so we could have got a couple more rounds of it. I assume they would have went just as hard if it was 5 rounds based on, the character of the 2 guys. So that was one of the best fights I've seen of all time. Definitely fight of the year for me. I also put Holloway versus Cater just based on Holloway's sheer performance and Cater's, will to stay in there. But, Holloway put on a masterclass for sure.
What a shit.
And then my number 3 was a recent fight. It was Clay Guido versus Leonardo Santo. So this is, if we were doing a comeback of the year or whatever, it would be this Clay Guido. They could have stopped the fight, honestly. In the first round, he was getting beat up, just doing enough to grab onto legs and stuff to stay in the fight. And Leonardo ended up getting tired, and Clay ended up choking out a very high-level Brazilian black belt in jiu-jitsu. So that was a great back and forth comeback fight.
Yeah.
Good way to end the year.
No doubt. And just for the record, my number 1 was Chandler Gaethje. Usman and Kobe 2 was number 2. And then I had Wilder and Fury 3. I thought, throw boxing in there too. Now I didn't do finish of the year, but at the top of my head, it's that one we saw in Bellator. Give a little love to Bellator MMA. Sergio Pettis, with the come from behind, he's basically being outclassed for 5 rounds by Horiguchi, and just looks like he doesn't belong. And it's okay, he's just not ready for this yet. And then boom, spinning back fist. Yep. It was like the kick kind of went over his head, right, and he turns around, spinning back fist. Yeah, so just shocking. And poor Horiguchi got carried out on a stretcher, but I think he's doing okay. He did give us a thumb up on the way out.
Yeah.
But yeah, incredible come from behind finish.
Yeah, that was a great finish. Mine was either between the Usman knockout of Masvidal or that Joaquin Buckley spinning back kick that happened this year, where he spinning back kicked that guy in the face who was holding his other leg. Yes. That one's probably got to be number 1 for me. That was spectacular. That'll be on, all the MMA highlight reels for years to come.
Yes, Chevy. I will yield here. That I forgot about that one, not because I didn't do any research on that. So, yes, I forgot about that. That's when he got his leg caught. For our pro wrestling fans, it's basically he's turning around and it kicks him, knocks him out. This looks like something you would see in a pro wrestling match.
Absolutely
fantastic. Yeah, that definitely would be a great finish of the year. All right, so let's look at our fighters of the year. We'll go with female first. To me, it's Valentina Schiffenko. And here's why. She's still just outclassing everybody. I don't think you could ask for a better, more complete fighter, more dominant. You want to throw some other names in there? I'll give you some runners up. Kayla Harrison. All right. She outclassed everybody in the PFL, won $1 million. Good on her. She's making some name for herself, getting some buzz, but she still hasn't fought that next level competition she'd find in UFC or even some fights for her in Bellator. So she's not, going to get that, from me yet. Nunes was dominant up until the end of this year, but unfortunately she was the victim of the upset of the year by Juliana Pena. Pena, great upset, awesome, but that's a huge upset and that's quite an accomplishment. But to me, if you're just looking at the overall body of work, I still put it on Valentina Schiffenko.
Yeah, they'd definitely be up there for me too. I'm gonna go with Rose. I mean, she fought Whaley twice this year, so just based on strength of schedule, I can't
Yes.
give it to Valentina because one of her fights was against Lauren Murphy. So
Right.
and Lauren Murphy's tough, and she hung in there. Um, and I think she got finished in like the 4th round or something like that. But Rose knocked out Whaley and then beat her in a very hard fought 5-round decision. Whaley is terrifying at that weight class at strawweight. So I think 2 wins over that gets Rose the nod for me this year.
I do like strength of schedule. That's a hell of an argument.
Yeah.
I might have to yield again. All right. um, Male fighter of the year. This one, it was really. I mean, I'll go. I did come up with 3. All right. My third guy is Max Holloway.
Mhm.
Even though he didn't know what title, his performances are just off the charts. He is putting just a masterclass every time he steps in there, and I really feel like this guy is the uncrowned featherweight champion at this point. Like, I like Volkanovski. I think it'll be a great fight. He continues to impress, and I know he has the 2 wins, although that second one is really arguable, like we talked about.
Wins.
But man, even that first one is close and
It
competitive.
was close.
Yeah, but yeah, I just feel like Max is just looking like something special these days. So I threw him in there at number 3, and then it was really down to Usman and Charles Oliveira. But I went with Usman. Charles Oliveira, so exciting. You know, he won the title this year and he defends it. But man, Usman is not only like putting on like exciting performances like he did with Covington. He also knocked out Masvidal, and that Gilbert Burns fight was actually earlier this year too. Usman got 3 wins in a row, 2 brutal knockouts, which this was a guy that wasn't knocking anybody out, and he was involved in a competitive fight of the year against Kobe Covington, his rival. Hell of a year as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I wanted to put Holloway, but I didn't want to be a homer.
Yep.
I thought he put on the most impressive performances in a stacked division. But I did ultimately go with Usman for the same reasons that you did. He's the pound for pound number 1 right now. I think that's rightfully given. He's strength of schedule again. He's beaten the top guys. He's on his way all the way up. He's fought the top guys. So he's got to get the nod for me this year.
I'd love to see him in some dream fights, like with Habib. I know Habib's gone, but man, if Habib was willing to come to welterweight, him and Usman, wow, like
Yeah.
those are 2 of the best I consider. And even though I don't think he could do it right now, just because of his legacy, like I would still be excited about GSP at welterweight against Usman, because GSP still always keeps himself in shape. He always seems to find a way to win. But yeah, man, smart money's on Usman these days. But I'd love to see Usman get like just 2 giant fights like that in a row, because quite frankly, he deserves it.
Right. For sure. I agree.
Yeah, and he's a guy that I wasn't the biggest fan of in the beginning, too. Like, wasn't that I didn't respect him, but I just thought he was kind of boring. And then you really just start to appreciate the effort and the work. But now it's like he's not only so good, he's fun to watch. Like
he's had a lot of striking into his game with his move to Trevor Whitman's camp. I agree with you. He used to be just a clinch wrestler. He grind out decisions, and he added in some striking as a great jab, and obviously added in some power. So he's the complete package now.
I agree. All right. I think that will do. Is there anything you want to add for this year?
I just thank the fans for listening to the show, keeping us going.
Yeah.
Much appreciated. Happy holidays to you guys. We'll see you in the next year.
That's right. And like I said, next year we'll be talking. Next week we'll be talking about what we think is going to happen this coming year. And man, I don't know. Like I said, it was an exciting year at MMA. I'm really curious to see what 2022 brings for us, because this was a really good year. And man, And we didn't even talk about like Francis Ngannou winning the heavyweight title this year.
No.
And that's a story for next year too, because he's got like one fight left on his contract.
Yeah, we might see him fighting in boxing or something. Yeah,
unbelievable.
There's a lot of breakout talent this year too in the UFC.
Yeah,
That well, I'm sure we'll talk about next week as far as who might be holding belts in the year to come.
mentally undefeated.
That's right.
All right, everybody. It's the Combatcast. We're out.